Okay,
It's the 24th of June. This is Rabbi Levitt doing Horeb.
okay, very good. And we're ready to go. We're holding by section 191, Havdalah. We're going to learn about Havdalah now. Okay, and Roy is called upon to be the first to read today.
Thank you. Right, Havdalah. This has been introduced into one's home life at the conclusion of the Sabbath in order to preserve during the workday week, then beginning the concept of when beginning the concept of one's mission in life, which one has gained from the Sabbath that has now bidden us farewell. Into Tefillah, see section 6, paragraph 651. After you have through Tefillah conceived your working week in the spirit of the Shabbos, you at once introduce this spirit into your occupational life itself through the Havdalah, which you recite over the wine cup, proclaiming God as the designer of life cycles, that the weekdays, like the Shabbos, are planned by him as patterns and directives of his wisdom. Indeed, just as the holy is set apart as a contrasting standard for that which is unholy and which needs sanctifying, light and darkness, Israel and erring mankind, so must the Shabbos be kept distinct and marked out as a beacon for the weekdays, and find its culmination in those very weekdays by your decision to fulfill God's holy purpose of the Shabbos in your workday life. The Havdalah benediction is also, as a rule, recited over a cup of wine, or if that's not available, over a cup of some popular drink. Only when Yom Tov and the conclusion of the Shabbos, might say Shabbos, coincide, in which case the Havdalah is incorporated in the Kiddush. May the Havdalah incorporated in the Kiddush be recited over bread when wine is not available.
Okay, so he mentioned this a couple times. That the Havdalah uh, is your decision to fulfill Hashem's holy purpose of the Shabbos in your workaday life. So, what exactly is that holy purpose of the Shabbos? I would assume that I would take a guess that what he means is that based upon what he's been saying about what Shabbos is all about. He said that Shabbos was in 186. He says on Shabbos we're meant to ponder that the Shabbos day is really for mankind as a reminder of Hashem and of mankind's mission in the world. And number two, the significance of the Shabbos has for Klal Yisrael. That they're the ones that took the banner and accepted the mankind's mission to be to be the rulers of the world according to the way that Hashem wants mankind to act in the world. Okay, so that's now not only something that's done on Shabbos. That's something that's equally applicable during the week, of course. So that's what I guess he's saying over here, that the Havdalah is for that. And that's connected to the fact that the Havdalah, we notice the Kedusha of Shabbos as opposed to the of the week, and the Kedusha of Yisrael as opposed to the nations, and the difference between the Or and Choshech. So that's what we're taking into the week. Okay. To preserve that mission, because we are Yisrael and we are the ones that have the mission. We've accepted the mission, and that's what we should take into our week. That's what Havdalah's that's what they're to remind us of and to proclaim to us. Okay. Okay, 192. We go to Lou to continue. And we're looking for Alan. I don't see him.
I did send him a link this morning.
Okay, good. Tiskel mitzvahs.
To the Havdalah benediction over a cup of wine are added besamim and ner, i.e. fragrant spices and light. Besamim, the sense which borders closest on the spiritual and also acts directly upon the mind. Indeed, it revives the languid, is that of smell. Besamim were therefore added to the Havdalah benediction to remind you that now that the Sabbath, the source of your becoming invigorated, consecrated, and dedicated, has departed, you should cling fast to the spiritual strength which you have already gained from the Shabbos, and not be dragged down by your weekday occupations. Spices used for an unworthy purpose may not be used for Havdalah. Ner, the element by which man can extract objects from nature and by which he gains control over things, and by which night subtly transforms itself into day, thus averring and confirming man's mastery over nature, is fire. And so, as soon as you again enter your working week and you commence your struggle to control the forces of the world and to make things follow your behest, you should assert, as the Shabbos has taught you, that you are active only by the power of God and by the strength given you by Hashem and by His will. You should therefore declare that the element let loose so ingeniously, which is the product helping you to master the world, is a gift presented to the world by Hashem. It is incumbent upon you, therefore, to will and to implement this mastery of the forces of the world only in accord with Hashem's will. That you have this intention very much at heart, you manifest by uttering the expressive benediction, Borei Morei Ha'esh, over a meaningful symbol of the content and intent of your mission in life, as the Shabbos has taught you. This bracha is recited only over fire in its gentle and beneficial purpose. namely, as fire is sign for giving light. The Havdalah candle should be a kind of torch. Any form of double light is considered a torch. The flame over which you wish to pronounce the benediction must actually give you light, because unless the light is there for you to enjoy, the benediction loses its meaning. That is why you must close your hand with the back of it facing the light, and then open your hand, clearly differentiating between your nails and your flesh, and thereby you at once accentuate light and shade. This is contrasting light, and this contrasting light serves the purpose of enabling you to distinguish things and to appreciate the presence, absence, and use of light. The light must not have directly contributed to the implementation of any activity forbidden on the Shabbos, but any lighting emanating from it indirectly is permissible. If you have not pronounced the Havdalah benediction over Besamim and Ner, do so as soon as you have Besamim and as soon as you perceive the first flame intended for lighting purposes. The order to be followed in the Havdalah ceremony is 1. Wine, 2. Spices, 3. Light, 4. Havdalah, the Havdalah benediction, and prayer. According to custom, this ceremony is introduced with the cheering verse of Hana el Yeshuasi. Hine kel Yeshuasi, for a happy future.
Sorry, yeah. Oh, so we want to break this up. It's a very long section over here.
No, I ended the section. We're up to 193 now.
No, 194.
193.
Well, we just did that.
Oh,
I ended with Kel Yeshua C. That's the end of 192.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Okay, so fine. Okay, so Mayor, 193.
Uh-huh. Okay. It says, as soon as it becomes dark, you must not partake of anything until you have made Havdalah. If you missed making Havdalah when the Sabbath ended, you may still perform it in the course of the early part of the week until the end of the third day. But then you should pronounce only the benediction over wine and Hamavdil. Bisamim and Ner are applicable only at the outgoing of Shabbat. Work in general is forbidden before Havdalah. If, however, you have already said the Havdalah benediction and prayer in the tefillah, and you have to execute a piece of work before you can recite the Havdalah over a cup, you may do such work. If you are if you are obliged to do a piece of work before you have said Havdalah in the tefillah, then first at least say Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'chol, which condenses in shortened form the purport of Havdalah.
Okay. Okay, right. Right. You have to make some type of Havdalah, even though it's already 35 minutes after Shabbos, or however any minutes you keep until after sundown. It's not enough just the time, but you also have to say Havdalah. So if not in the tefillah of Mariv, you could say Baruch Hamavdi Ben Kodesh L'cho. That's the minig, and with that, those are the magic words, and with that, you're now able to do work, even though you haven't made Havdalah yet, which is a longer form of those ideas of Mabdi Ben Kodesh L'cho. Okay.
Once you've
What?
said the Mavdil ben Kodesh L'chol, you don't say any other form of Havdalah.
No. You still have the mitzvah of making a full Havdalah on a kos with the Ner and Besamim. Absolutely, that's the mitzvah. But what this little line of Baruch Hamavdi Mikodesh L'chol, it's interesting. He doesn't say Baruch. I think the custom is not just to say Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'chol, but to say Baruch Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'chol. But at any rate, what that does, that short form allows you to now do malacha, because you're not allowed to do malacha just because it's now Ois Shabbos. The Shabbos has gone out. It's 35 minutes after sundown. It's not enough. You have to, before you do malacha, you have to say Baruch Hamavdi Ben Kodesh L'chol. Because that's the shortened form of the long form, but the long form in any case is still obligatory. It's still a mitzvah to do Havdalah ala kos. This is just a dispensation to allow you to do malacha before you make the full Havdalah on the kos. If you have for some reason to do malacha before you make the full text of Havdalah on a kos. Okay. All right. So that takes care of Kiddush and Havdalah. And now we have 194 Tosfa. Let's see what he has in mind with Tosfa. 194, we go to Meir. Or no, we just went to Meir, right?
Right.
Okay, we go back to Lou.
No, I just
So we
did.
go back to sorry, we go back to Roy. Roy's the first one today.
All right. Okay. Tosafot. From the duty to ponder over the concept of the Shabbos when the Shabbos commences, and to affirm that the concept when the Shabbos departs, it follows in this corollary. It is above all your duty not to limit the influence of the Shabbos to the short period of its duration, but to let its holiness overflow into the week. This means that you must in fact somewhat extend the celebration of the Shabbos beyond its prescribed period, adding to it both before and after a little of the working days. In this way, you declare that the Shabbos does not stand isolated, as if your time was, so to speak, divided into one part in which you live for God and another in which you live for yourself alone. On the contrary, your working days, past and future, must be suffused with the spirit of the Shabbos. Thus will your workday week itself in time become transformed, as it were, into a Shabbos, because you will be doing your work only in the Shabbos spirit, and His Holiness, excuse me, and His Holiness must consequently sanctify you. This additional boon of the Shabbos is known as Tosafah, or Tosefa.
And they
13
call it Tosfos Shabbos.
Tosafah Shabbos. 13.5 minutes before it is really night, that is, before the appearance of at least 3 medium-sized stars, it is doubtful whether it is day or night. Any work is therefore already prohibited because of that doubt, except where such work is a mitzvah or is intended for some other urgent purpose, when it may be done by a non-Jew. Before these 13.5 minutes, when it is still day, you should extend the period of the Shabbos at its incoming by refraining from all or part of the 72 minutes before nightfall. In other respects, as soon as Barakah
Baruch
in the Maru service, Baraku in the Maru service is said, the obligations of the Shabbos devolve upon you, and all work is prohibited. See Orach Chaim 261. Even if you have not yet yourself said your Mariv evening devotion, but the community has already heard Baruch in the synagogue, work is prohibited for you. And the same applies to if you say your evening devotions, Mariv, earlier than the community does. There's Orach Chaim 263. When Shabbos terminates, you must similarly add a little time to actual nightfall. There's Orach Chaim 293. And in the same spirit, some of the external celebrations of the Shabbos, such as the preparations of the table and special meal, has been instituted for departing Shabbos too. So this.
Okay, so that's a very nice insight into why it is that we have this mitzvah of Tosefes Shabbos, and because we want the Shabbos to the lessons of the Shabbos and what Shabbos calls upon us to take upon ourselves, to affirm the fact that Hashem is the creator, and he's the one that it's his world, and he's the one that commanded mankind to live according to his law that Rav Hirsch has been speaking about. This is what Shabbos is reminding of us, and the fact that Israel, Jewish people, they were the ones who accepted upon themselves this mission. So that's why it's our Shabbos. And so that is all carried into the week. That's all. It's similar, very similar to the concept of Havdalah. It's carried into the week at the end of Shabbos, and we want to add on to the onto the Shabbos from the weekday time when it comes in as well. We have Tosefes Shabbos, in other words, to add on to Shabbos both before it's technically speaking the day of Shabbos, meaning with sundown. That's for us the marking point over here. He mentioned 13.5 minutes before it's really night. That's the shortest opinion of what's called the Bein Hashmashos, when at that point it's definitely nighttime. But we don't. He himself also says it's a time of where it's Suffolk Yom Suffolk Lila. We in halacha we don't it's really a suffix whether it's still daytime or whether it's actually already night. So really at that point it's better to before that time to accept upon yourself the Kedusha Shabbos. You just say Hareini Makabla Elias Kedusha Shabbos, and with that you have fulfilled this mitzvah that he's talking about of Tosefes Shabbos. Just like when we put on tefillin or talis, we say Hareini bo lekayim mitzvahs bori lisatif patzitzis landiach tefillin. So this also Hareini makabel elayas kedusha Shabbos. I hereby accept upon myself the kedusha of Shabbos before sundown. So if you daven a late mincha, so you want to make sure that you finish the mincha before sundown, and be able to accept Shabbos before it becomes before sundown. Then you have this mitzvah. And he also says it applies at the end of Shabbos to add on to Shabbos. In other words, after actual nightfall, which we generally take as being 30-35 minutes after sundown. So to add on to Shabbos and not to say Baruch HaMavdil before that time also. You get the mitzvah. That's part of the mitzvah of Tosefes Shabbos. Okay, 195. And we go to Lou.
Kiddush and Havdalah, and also the duty of Tosafah, have been carried over from the Sabbath and introduced into the observance and celebration of Yom Tov. 1. Kiddush for Yom Tov. See section 6 in Tefillah. The cup, the basic idea is the same as that for the Sabbath, namely, the introduction of the significance and idea of the day into one's home life as the place where that idea can be truly fulfilled. The Kiddush is therefore like that for Shabbos in all respects except in its form. The latter is adjusted to the character of the day. For the festivals, Raglayim, the festivals attest the choice and destiny of Israel in the light of the significance of every act of bodily and spiritual creation by Hashem and his providence. You must resolve and observe the incoming festival fully in your own life according to its ordained purpose and significance. Asher Bachar. On the first 2 nights of all festivals, i.e., the first and second nights of Passover, both nights of Shavuos, the first 2 nights of Sukkot, and both nights of Shmini Atzeres, you add to the Kedusha, to the Kiddush, the inspiring benediction of Shehechianu, in which you acknowledge that the benefits of the festival which are yours to enjoy are God-given, and you give thanks for them and undertake to make use of them according to the will of him who bestowed them upon you. The order to be followed in the Kiddush is as follows. Borei Pri Hagafen, Asher Bachar, Shehechianu. In the morning Kiddush, you stress the divine origin of the festival by the short verse, Vayidaber Moshe, and by the blessing, Borei Pri Hagafen. For Rosh Hashanah, the Kiddush is identical to that of the festivals, except that the specific significance of the day is declared through its designation as Yom Teruah, or on the Shabbos day as Yom Zikaron Teruah. And you bear in mind your duty to observe the day duly and properly. The blessing is pronounced on both nights. In the morning Kiddush, you substitute Tik'u for Vayidaber, as is appropriate for the character of the day. On Yom Kippur, there is, of course, no Kiddush over a cup, and only Shehechianu is said. Havdalah for Yom Tov. See Tefillah section 6. Over a cup, exactly as on the Shabbos day in its basic idea. And so it is similar to it in all respects except for the use of besamim. Because the festivals, unlike the Shabbos, are not sources of hallowing and strengthening the whole life of every individual, it rather stress certain aspects of life, and more particularly the national life of the children of Israel. Ner, for the same reason, does not apply, and this is further emphasized by the fact that not every kind of work is prohibited on Yom Tov. Only on Yom Kippur do you add Ner, because all and every kind of work is forbidden. But here, too, Ner has not the same significance which it has on Shabbos, when it teaches symbolically the subservience of the world-dominating man to the will of Hashem. It shows merely that the working days begin again, and fire appears again as the symbol of all working activity. It follows, too, that the Ner for Havdalah, at the conclusion of Yom Kippur, you may use only such light as already existed before Yom Kippur, and which was not used for any prohibited purpose. You may not use light artificially kindled just then. The Besamim are not used on Yom Kippur because this day, unlike the Shabbos, is not meant for strengthening the individual, but rather for his purification. The order, therefore, for the transition from Yom Tov to the working or intermediary days is Borei Pri Hagafen, Havdalah, at the conclusion of Yom Kippur, Borei Pri Hagafen, Ner, Havdalah. If the conclusion of Yom Tov coincides with the incoming of the Shabbos, Havdalah is not recited. On passing from Shabbos into Yom Tov, you include Havdalah in Kodesh LaKodesh, which is similar to the Todi'enu in the order of the Kiddush then is 1 Yayin, 2 Kiddush, 3 Ner, 4 Havdalah, and 5 Shechianu. The spices, Besamim, are eliminated because the Yom Tov idea itself provides support for the concept which you have acquired of the Shabbos idea. concept which you have acquired of the Shabbos idea. If Yom Tov and Shabbos coincide, Kiddush comprises the features of both. Vayichulu, Borei Pri Hagafen, Asher Bachar, in which Shabbos is included, etc. At Kiddush in the morning, the order is V'shamaru, Tiku, or Vayidaber, Borei Pri Hagafen. The Havdalah is as at the conclusion of the Shabbos. Tosafa on Yom Tov, both when it begins and when it terminates, you should add a little time from your work days, just as you do on Shabbos. On Yom Kippur, you add a little time for both the preceding and the following day as a restraint on enjoyment and as a refraining from work.
Okay. Wow, that was a long piece there.
Now,
Okay, Rav Hirsch explaining the difference in the with the besamim, with the ner, without the ner, without the besamim, Yom Tov and Shabbos, and Yom Kippur. This was one interesting thing that he said over here. The besamim are not used on Yom Kippur because this day, unlike the Shabbos, is not meant for strengthening the individual, but rather for his purification. That's what he said before, that the besamim of Shabbos is to hold on to the spiritual strength that you've gained from the Shabbos, and not to be dragged down by your weekday occupations. And so, but that's not what Yom Kippur is all about. Yom Kippur is about purification, about tahara and kapora. So besamim are not done on in the Havdalah of Motzi Yom Kippur. He had a fascinating insight into the on Yom Kippur you do add ner, because all and every kind of work is forbidden. But here too, ner is not the same significance which it has on Shabbos, when it teaches the subservience of the world dominating man to the will of Hashem. That's the idea of Shabbos. But when it comes to Yom Kippur, it shows merely that the working days begin again and fire appears again. Why? Because fire is the symbol of all working activity. And so therefore the ner that you use for Havdalah by the conclusion of Yom Kippur is only a ner that was already in existence before Yom Kippur came in, and it was not used on Yom Kippur. Okay, very interesting. And we no more time. We're out of time. Okay, great. So we're up to 196 for tomorrow. Be'ezus Hashem.
Okay.
Shortly.
We wish Mayor a very good day today, an excellent day, a great day.
Okay, thank you so
May.
much. And have a good day, everybody.
have a good day.
Hey,
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. And
Okay.